see you nodding away here, Michael.
Absolutely.
But don't you think they're going to miss out on, everyone's going to be focused on soccer?
Well, not everyone. And so, yes, there'll be a lot of attention on the football.
The ones that are not focused on it are not South Africans. They're not South Africans.
No, I think there are a lot of South Africans. I mean, there's a great campaign that Virgin Atlantic is running at the moment on some lamp poles as you drive to work, suggesting that perhaps over those 6 weeks you should head out of the country and not stay here. And we saw in 2006 in Germany, the Swiss Tourism Board ran exactly the same campaign, where they said all the football wives that are heading to Germany with their hubbies to go and watch in Germany perhaps cross the border and visit Switzerland because there's other attractions there in the Swiss men for all the German women. So there are those campaigns that if you understand your target market correctly, and that's really what Samsung's doing, is they're understanding who are the target market that they're trying to appeal to, what's that audience, and then what are their objectives. And for them, Super 14, Super 15 rugby will do that for them in the short term. Because they've really understood the kind of brand message they want to bring across. And when you hear Nancy talk, it's about the brand attributes and how it plays out with the sponsor. Yeah. And so what are the Bluebell attributes and how does that link with Samsung's attributes? And how does that link to the consumer? So at the end of the day, when you're thinking about buying a Samsung phone and you perhaps support the Bluebells, how is that all coming together in your head? And that's really what that work Hayden's doing, is to try and understand how that all plays out in your head.
Yeah. Well, Hayden, post-World Cup, what exactly should be brands looking at in terms of strategizing for their companies?
The big shift for us at the moment is looking to go beyond superficial sponsorship, if you may. So we're talking about where do we go and how do we start connecting. And I think there is almost a confession from marketers, if you may, that the old models are falling down. So the notion of interruption marketing and the notions of talking to big groups of people on average issues is starting to be challenged. So what we're doing is going to be looking at finding tight communities, finding people who aggregate around something, call it archery for that matter. Going in and understanding those associations and saying, what does archery mean to that particular group? And how can your brand link to that? So we'll link the brand, form the platform through archery, and bring some consumer insight into that equation. And what that insight's designed to do is to drive participation. So we want to get away from interrupting people's lives and actually engaging them in the marketing and getting them to participate with our idea. So there is a big shift. I think in the 90s, Seth Godin spoke a bit about permission marketing, where he was saying, guys, we've got to stop interrupting the consumer in their lives. Let's ask for permission. And it's moving even beyond permission into getting them to participate with the idea. So that's kind of where the big shift is.
Because at the end of the day, if you're watching the Bluebells, there are only so many Heine Adams and Bucky Spuertas on the field. And you can be a player 23. But you really want to be on that field. Right. And so the work that Trinergy is doing, I think, is really interesting to try and understand how do you participate more fully. I mean, golf is an interesting game because you can watch Tiger Woods, but then you can actually get on to and play.
Right.
Yeah? And you can play with some of the best. And if you participate in some of these tournaments, you are actually playing with some of the rugby guys, some of the golf guys on the actual field. So I think that's the space that we're moving into, to understand how it's less about entertainment that you watch, but more about how you engage and participate.
And that's what consumers are looking after these days. So the question is, brands are spending top dollar on, as we know, on these sponsorships. So how do you gauge your return on investment? Because at the end of the day, FD wants to know what's your ROI. Hayden?
Probably one of the bigger questions in the classic sponsorship space. And I think the reason for that is that success was previously measured on what they call PR metrics. Yeah. So we're going, okay, if my name is attached to X, how many times do they say it? And then we'll say, well, that's our return on investment. If we start going the way we're going and saying this is about driving a certain brand attribute, it is about doing a specific job, then measuring that movement in that brand attribute becomes the way we measure success. We start saying, are we seen as younger? Are we seen as sexier? Are we seen as more South African? Whatever that objective is, and remove the PR dimension out of it. And I'm not knocking PR, I think it's got its merits, but for different areas. In this case, it's about finding that link, measuring the levels of participation, measuring the levels of association movement. So it's changing what we count effectively. That is going to be the future of measurement in this arena.
Because PR is really intangible. So I think what guys are after is the facts and figures. What
sure,
am I getting
and intangible at one level, but what it's doing is not to call it superficial, but it's just about a very high level link.
Yeah,
and we're talking about much deeper connections. So to measure what the connection is being made is more important than is there a connection, which is at least one step forward. I mean, some brands don't even make the connection for you. So I'm glad to see the connection is being made and bringing it together. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I think from a Samsung point of view, the avenue that we've taken with Vodacom Blue Balls is that we want to connect with our consumers from an emotional platform. What we've done previously is obviously speaking to them on a functional point of view. So the sponsorship actually provides us an opportunity to connect them in that level.